This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Hope you're able to see my screen and also you're able to hear me clearly. Please confirm.
Good morning, Madhu.
Good morning. So you're able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So let's get going. So this is our fifth session on our online ISTQB Advanced Test Manager Certification course. So a lot of you who are attending this course have an aim to appear for this exam and also clear the exam. So we also set that goal in mind. So we are going little slow. Typically, in a classroom setting, this whole syllabus can be covered within 5 days, meaning close to 8 hours a day, but it will be very, very intensive 5 days. And that we are spreading over many hours. So, but still, this is a lot of theory exam oriented course. Those who are attending bear that in mind. And though the theory at times appears boring, but I'm trying to make it as interesting as possible. So whatever you are learning in a slow pace, reflect on that, and maybe on your day-to-day jobs, try to apply it. And also, if you have set a goal for yourself that in future, some point in time, I want to take this exam and also clear this exam, then uh, use those videos, recorded sessions, whenever you are going back to the exam, because sometimes when every day you are not thinking about it, you may forget about also these things. So anyway, let's get going then. So we actually are uh, in the second step of our first chapter. Our first chapter is testing process. In that, uh, as per fundamental test process, we have a group of activities as test process. That is, the first activity is test planning, monitoring, and control. The second group of activities, test analysis and test design. The third group of activities categorized as test implementation and execution. Then the fourth one, evaluation of exit criteria and reporting. And the fifth one is our test closure activities. So we are going step by step, and in the advanced level syllabus, the syllabus actually made this whole uh, fundamental test process in a very granular way. And right now we have completed test analysis step in the last session. Now we are going to talk about test design step. Again, test design uh, is an activity performed by the test engineers or test analysts. But the whole project and including these activities are overseen by test managers. So we will learn these process steps within the framework of a test manager's activities, not as an activity that will be performed by test analysts. In fact, ISTQB has another certification program, ISTQB Advanced Test Analyst Certification Program. That's where actually the whole process will be covered in a much more different way. That will be kind of described in keeping in mind a test analyst and his or her activities, and that is how it will be done. But we are not talking about advanced test analyst now. We are talking about advanced test manager. So let us go and first set up a learning objective for that. What is that really important from a test design activity, from a test manager point of view? Okay. So as usual, we will set up a little bit of scenario, because these are the scenarios that will appear in your exams in a 2-3 page kind of essays. So I have reduced them, but let us look at this. So assume that you are working for an ambitious startup company. Again, when you are working, position yourself as you are the test manager for this ambitious startup company. This startup company, they are creating a system that will provide customized loyalty and reward programs for small and medium sized companies that are selling to their customers on the web. So basically, your company, this ambitious startup, has a cloud-based service to provide the functionality around loyalty and rewards. If any e-commerce company, they don't want to build on their own some functionality, but they want to use this third-party service, your company, your ambitious startup is providing such a service. Keep that in mind. So you're working as a test manager in that kind of setup. These companies, means the customers of your company, the e-commerce companies, enroll themselves on the system's web store. Okay, they'll come and they will enroll. When they enroll, this allows the companies to create customized buttons to be placed on their websites that will let customers enroll in the company's loyalty and rewards program. So for this service, they will pay. If I am a particular kind of B2B or B2C e-commerce company, and I don't have on my site any customized loyalty and reward program, I'll come and take your web service. Then you will create a button on my website, and any of my customer goes and clicks on that button, and that will lead to my website, and then they will be able to register and do all the formalities. That is the context of your startup company. Okay, so each subsequent purchase using this reward and loyalty program, each subsequent purchase earns points, and both companies and their customers can manage the program. Okay, the companies who are using our service and their customers using this functionality, they can manage their program. For example, to determine the number of points required to receive a free product or service, for an example, these are the kind of things they can do. Okay, fine, that is the context I just wanted you to understand. So your employer's marketing staff, your startup's marketing staff, are heavily promoting the system, okay, and offering aggressive discounts on the first year's fees to sign up new companies. So they are going very aggressively. The marketing materials are stating that whatever service you are going to provide will be highly reliable and extremely fast for companies and their customers. So they are promising that it is going to be highly available. It's very, never it will fail, and also it will be very fast. The performance will be really good. That is what your marketing team is campaigning and promoting, and also offering huge discounts to kind of get more and more customers. Okay, anyway, from a software development point of view, at this time the requirements are complete and development of the software has just started. Okay, that is the state, and the current schedule will allow companies and their customers to start enrolling in 3 months. So 3 months the software will be done, a cloud service will be deployed, and the customers can enroll and start using your service. Your employer intends to use cloud computing resources to host this service. So it's a cloud service and will not have hardware resources other than ordinary office computers for its developers, testers, and other engineers. All the servers and everything will run on the cloud. Only ordinary office computers will be given to developers, testers, and other engineers and managers. And anyway, as they develop, industry standard web-based application software components will be used. Okay, that is how they decided to build this software as a cloud platform. Okay, so now you are the test manager. So using this scenario, whatever you understood, where you are test manager in that context, using that context, consider the following risk item that was identified during the quality risk analysis process. So the team sat together and did a quality risk analysis. That is typically a lot of companies do. And as they did that risk analysis process, they identified one risk. I'm reading that risk. Okay. So one risk, they stated that customized enrollment buttons for a company's website are not assigned the correct URL for that company's loyalty program. That is the risk item. Typically, risk items are stated that way, that there is a chance that customized enroll buttons for a company's website are not assigned to the correct URL. They're incorrectly assigned. Okay, then it is a risk. If that happens, all promise that your marketing team is doing all is going to go waste. They're telling it's a reliable thing, it is highly available, it is very fast, all those things will go wrong. So this they identified as a risk item. Okay, hope you got it. I'll read the risk item again. What they're telling is that customized enrollment buttons for a company's website are not assigned to the correct URL of that company's loyalty program. They are incorrectly assigned. Okay, then customers of your customers will get really confused what is happening. Okay, so assume that you have used traceability to determine logical test cases that cover this risk item. So your test team, for which you are a manager, based on all this, they have created some test condition cases. Okay, test cases, and these test cases are written at a logical level. We'll come to that. There is a logical kind of test case, there is a concrete test case. So if you put a lot of details into your test case, then we call it as a concrete test case. If you state it a very high level, this will be tested, something like that, then it is a very logical or high level test case. So your test team has written some high level logical test cases generally for this project. Okay, so which of the following is a positive logical test that is complete, is correct, and covers this risk item? This risk item of company's website is not being assigned to the correct URL, that risk item. Okay, so based on the functionality, based on the risk analysis, and based on the logical test cases, which is actually correct, complete, and covers this particular risk item? That is the question you have to answer. This is a typical ISTQB test manager exam question. Okay, so now let us try to answer that. First point is telling that click on company enrollment button, verify that you go to our home page. Actually, again, that is not the real functionality, because when they come to this cloud service and they create a button, and when they create that button, anybody clicks on that button of that company logo, that will take that to that company's website. From there, actually, they can enroll and register for this rewards program. Okay, so the first one is not correct anyway, but anyway, as usual, we'll go and read everything before jumping to an answer. The second point is click rapidly on company enrollment button to see what happens. Okay, again, doesn't sound good. Click on URL for our home page. Check that home page displays. Again, that is not really the risk, and that is not related to the functionality. Click on company enrollment button. Verify that you go to that company's enrollment page. That is a much better logical test case that covers this risk item, and also that is correct logical test case, and that is a complete logical test case. So what is the answer? What do you think is your answer?
Fourth one.
Fourth one. So this is a pretty straightforward. The first one is incorrect, the second one is incorrect, third one is incorrect, the fourth one is correct. So basically, this is the type of question you may get with respect to the test design topic. So basically, what is this intent of this question? They're telling that whatever, as a test manager, your team might produce either logical test cases or concrete test cases, but as a test manager, you always have to trace it back to maybe the test conditions, from there trace it back to requirements, from there to risk, and ensure that your test team is going in the right direction. They're building the complete, consistent test cases as per your all the previous work. So that is the idea. So the learning objective kind of articulated by ISTQB for this topic from a test manager angle is that test managers must use traceability to check completeness and consistency of designed test cases with respect to the defined test conditions. So trace left towards test conditions, and from there trace left to risk and requirements. So that is what manager's job during this activity of our testing process. So keep that in mind, because that on that learning objective only you will learn everything about test design, not from a test analyst point of view. Test analysts will learn how to really do design test cases. Here it's not our goal. If you want to be a certified test analyst, then you will have to learn that, but not in this course. Okay, so having said that, let's go and learn about test design now. Okay, so test design your team will do under your guidance. Okay, and it starts when test conditions are identified and sufficient information available. Okay, so this is an activity can be thought like it is being performed after test analysis. During test analysis, we asked a question, we looked at the test basis, we examined them carefully, we understood them thoroughly, and as we understand and understood that, we asked a lot of questions about the requirements, that hey, from these requirements what will I test? Then an answer came, and that answer you recorded as a test condition, and like that you have identified many test conditions. And in the previous lesson also we talked, you can keep them in a very detailed level test conditions, or at a very high level based on the context and based on the project situation. So we talked about that. Let's say you have that set of test conditions already identified, and also you have sufficient information available now about the software, the user interface aspect, all that. Now you will start the next step. The next step, actually the basic question you will ask, looking at your test conditions, you will ask, okay, if this is my test condition, so how will I build a test case to test one or more of these test conditions together? So that question you will ask, how? So when you ask that how question on your test conditions, then you will get an answer, and that answer will lead you to develop a test case. Again, all this test analysis and test design, these are very thinking activities. They are not just sitting and doing something. You have to pause for a while, read some things, understand some things deeply, and then in your mind some thinking process must happen, and as an output of that thinking process you will do this activity. That's why the quality of thinking will determine quality of your test analysis and test design. So you have to, even if you are working in a fast paced agile environment, or you are working in a sequential life cycle with a lot of time available, in both occasions, as a testing professional or as a test manager leading those testing professionals, you have to ensure that everyone takes a pause and carefully applies thinking process, and then actually develops these things. That is the key to success. So test design, I'm again repeating, it will start when test conditions are identified and sufficient information is available. Okay, then so I have test conditions identified during my test analysis process. Now I will look at them very, very carefully and ask now, how will I create, how will I really test now these test conditions by combining one or more test conditions at a time. And then based on answer to that, you will design and specify test cases. This is another term we use now based on what we do, how we do in our companies. Some people write test cases in one way, another people write test cases in another way. Again, if you are using ALM tools to write these test cases, the ALM tool will determine what level of detail the steps have to be done. But then different projects in different situations write or use different kind of templates. But basically, a test case is a simple document. It will, for one or more test conditions, we will try to create one intent of test, and based on that intent, we tell that when the software is available, what input will I provide to the software to kind of test this test condition. And then when I give that input, based on my test basis or my own knowledge, what is the expected output of the software? These are the two things I fill in a test case document. And then I use that test case and sit in front of my software, and I will follow my own test case document and start giving inputs to the software. And then I will observe the actual output produced at the time of my execution. Then I will fill that actual result column at the time of execution. And then I have one more column that if the actual result is as expected, I will tell, okay, it has passed. Then I will go to the next step. I will do that. Let's say in one of the steps, if it is the actual result is different from expected result, I will go and tell that, hey, it didn't work. Then I will go and log it somewhere and then continue with my work. So to do that, I make a simple document for myself so that I will be more efficient at the time of test execution. So basically, a test case captures input, expected output, actual result, and pass fail. So that is the thing. But sometimes we write many more details into a test case document. We call them sometimes manual test scripts. So in order to really run this test, I need little bit of preconditions. Then after I run this test case, the software will be left with some condition that I call it as a post condition. And then I will add a lot of details about how to execute, what to look for, little bit more like a script. I develop that, and those documents we call them as test procedures. Okay, so based on situation to situation, people write very lightweight test cases, and in some companies where especially compliance regulatory things are there, where somebody you have to prove that you have done all these tests very carefully, then very detailed documentation will have to be done. So that is a simple way to explain our test design process. Okay, so these test cases can be written in a very high level. We call them as logical level. Okay, we will just tell one line. Okay, to test this test condition, I will click on this button and then I will check for this. That is a very high level test case. Those are called logical. Now, sometimes people may write or develop low level test cases where they will talk about, I will do this action, I will put this input data, I will do this step. They will write in a very detailed way. The low level are called concrete test cases. So you can choose to do either high level or low level based on the context. Both have some advantages and some disadvantages. We will have to talk about it because that is what syllabus covers. We'll talk about it. Okay, so let's get going. So again, relating test cases to test bases. This is what really the test manager's role here. Your team is doing something, but then every day you are monitoring their progress. And as a test manager, if somebody sends, sir, this is the document, you have to spend some time and be in a position to tell them, hey, you missed on this aspect. Why don't you look at it, or it is good, or you have to cover this as well. So you have to add value to this process by guiding your teams. So how you really do that? A manager has an overall view into the project, so you have to establish some traceability. Let's say already we have taken an example earlier uh, from the point of view of risk and how we are mitigating risks. Let us say you are working in a project and you have used a little bit systematic analytical test strategy, requirement based testing. Okay, so you have very good set of requirements and the team is able to identify good test conditions, and from there they are writing test cases and then they are executing those test cases. Now you are monitoring the progress. So how will you understand the situation? So there are two requirements, let's say. So your test team has done test analysis activities. So first step, they identified some test conditions. Okay, for requirement 1 they have identified 4 test conditions, and in fact the requirement 1 4 test conditions, and requirement 2 3 test conditions. The fourth test condition actually takes care of some part of requirement 1 and some part of requirement 2 as well. Typically all these documents and information, when you put it all together, they will have many to many relationship. That's what we told, and as a test manager really you are understanding that. Okay, so anyway there are some test conditions in blue color. At least the 2 test conditions are in yellow color. Let us come to that. But let's say from this information now you went into test design activity and your test team has built 4 test cases. Okay, like the test case 1 is actually built to test condition 1 and test condition 2. Then test case 2, the test condition 2 it has done. Then test case 3 is actually covering test condition 1, which is part of requirement 1 and requirement 2. And the test condition 4 is actually the test case 4 is doing your test condition 5 of requirement 2. And these yellow things are actually not connected to any test case. Means these test conditions your team has not covered while developing test cases. At least when you build this traceability, you will know. Okay, so the blue ones are covered by a test case, and the yellow ones or orange ones, they are not covered by a test. At least by building this traceability, you came to know about it. Let's say you are in a test execution phase and you are using your monitoring dashboards and guiding your teams. So this is the execution status of your 4 test cases. So test case 1 has been run and passed. Test case 2 has been run and passed. Test case 3 also has been run and passed. Only test case 4 has been run but failed. So this is the tracking information from your execution data you got. So now you are tracing back and checking what is my completeness and consistency of my testing and coverage from a requirements point of view. How is it? Then you can use this kind of information and trace back and get it. Let's say here test case 1 has passed, executed and passed. That is covering test condition 1 of requirement. Then test case 2 has passed, again that is covering test condition 2 of my requirement 1. Anyway, test condition 2 also is actually test case 2 is passed, 1 is passed means test condition is also covered. So especially with these two, the requirement at least all test cases have been covered. Let's look at it. The third test case again has a test condition that is coming from requirement 1. If all these things have been run and passed, then definitely my requirement 1 of my functionality is working, at least from a test case point of view. And I have achieved, I designed 3 test cases, I ran all of them, and they are all passing. So I have achieved 100% test coverage executed and running for requirement 1. But if you look at from a test condition coverage, my team actually built 4 test conditions, and in these 3 test cases, only 3 of them have been covered out of 4. So my test condition coverage that I achieved is 75%. So if you set a goal for yourself, so I will not only achieve all the requirement is properly tested, but I want to achieve 100% test coverage and then test condition coverage, then you have to write a test case which covers this third test condition. Otherwise, you have not achieved your goal. Let's say, anyway, the fourth one has been run. So all 4 test cases that you planned to test these 2 requirements have all been run. So 100% test has been run. But because this is failed and there is a test condition linked to requirement 2 of this test case, so your requirement 2 is not fulfilled. It is not still working. You cannot say all requirements have been fulfilled. Then from a test execution point of view, you have 4 tests and you have run all of them. That's why you have completed all 100% testing, meaning there is no test which is pending to execute. Okay, and if you look at from this thing, one is that 50% only tests have succeeded. Okay, so that is how test managers use this activities information to trace back and guide their test teams. So that is what is an example I'm explaining. So some points we must consider. These are all written in the syllabus, so I'm also writing here. So again, there is this test analysis and there is this test design. Okay, should they be done together or should they be done as 2 separate activities? Again, the answer, it depends. Like in a fast-paced situation like agile, then you will do all these things together. There is no separate activities. Everything you will do. So, but general thing is that for higher levels of testing, that is, if you are doing a system level testing design, acceptance test level design, then maybe it's worthwhile to separate test analysis and test design as 2 separate activities. Lot of times what happens, test analysis, meaning identifying test conditions, will start at that time your requirements will not be very clear. So sometimes they will keep it at a very logical level. Okay, now once you are the requirements are a little bit more clear, the user interface elements are getting more and more clear, then if you do design as a separate activity, you can use this logical thing and then build a little bit more concrete test cases. So keep that in mind. They can be done as single activity or separate activity, but in the higher level test levels, it is worthwhile to do a separate activity. But for lower levels of testing, like component testing, component integration testing, maybe it's likely that test analysis and test design will be integrated as single activity. Okay, just keep that in your mind. Okay, so now also we talked about this concrete and logical test cases, and as a test manager, you must be aware the relative pros and cons of each of these things. So let us talk about it. As I told you, concrete test cases are detailed test cases, meaning you are putting a lot of details into your test case document, like what is the input test data you will input to run a step. So you will, in a sense, hard code lot of that information inside your test case description, and you will write it in a very detailed level to give this input, then do this, press OK button, like that. At that level detail you write it, then we are calling it as concrete test cases. But let's say you are writing as a guidance to you. When I am testing, I will use this guidance. Let me test thoroughly the checkout functionality on my e-commerce site. Okay, with this kind of situation, something like that you wrote, that is your test case. Then it's, we call it as a logical test case. You kept it at a high level, and that will help you to use your brain thinking at the time of execution. You are not hard coding anything to start with. So that is the nature of this concrete test cases and logical test cases. And some context you use it, some context you use logical test cases. So let us look at merits and demerits of these things. So from a content point of view, okay, so all specific information and procedures required are captured in a concrete test case. Okay, so that is why it's called concrete. From a logical test case, the content is, it's a guideline for what is to be tested, and at the time of testing, the test engineer can vary the data or and procedure, how to do the test, which data to use, tester will use at the time of execution. So that is the difference between concrete versus logical. So now, which one is useful? So concrete test cases are useful in your project if requirements are well defined. If requirements are well defined, so you have a lot of information to understand about the software even before seeing the software. So you will be in a position to write a very detailed level test cases. Okay, that is can be done at the time. If the requirements are not very well defined, then anyway you will not be in a position to write a very detailed concrete level test cases. So you will leave it at a logical level test case. That's what happens. Then if your testing staff is less experienced, okay, you are a test manager dealing with less experienced test engineers, then it is better to actually guide them, coach them to build more detailed level test cases, because the process of developing very detailed test cases will actually give them knowledge, and then they will be able to do better testing and also over a period of time learn and get experience. So that is why a less experienced test team, if you have better, actually we apply a concrete test case kind of regime there. And if your test staff is experienced, they are all knowing the product very well, and also they know the testing aspect very well, then they can leave it at a very high level. Because of their experience, they will be able to at the time of execution, they will apply a lot of creativity, apply their brain, and actually vary the data that they are giving, and also vary the scenarios flow, because their goal and focus at the time of execution is actually to find defects. So to find defects, if you have already set data, only I will test with the data only, I will not do any variation on that, then your ability to find defects may come down. That's where the experienced testers will play that role. They will leave the test case at a high level, but at the time of execution, they apply all the creativity, they vary the data, they vary the flows and find defects. Okay, so that is how experienced versus not so experienced staff can dictate which type of test cases, which level of detail you can go for. Then you have to develop concrete test cases in spite of having experienced testers if your customer demands it. Like you are building a software that will be kind of accepted by regulatory agencies. There is a lot of compliance and regulatory requirements on your software. Then creating an audit trail is extremely important. So if you don't document your test cases in a very detailed level and also record your test execution data to the test case, then your regulatory agencies will not accept your software. So at that time, there is no other way than building very detailed level concrete test cases. So external verification is required. Then you must go for concrete test cases. On the other hand, if the formal documents are not required, your customer really doesn't want that kind of thing, then we can stick to our logical test cases. So that is keep that in mind to kind of compare these two. Then what is the good point of concrete test cases? It is having high degree of reproducibility. If the same document is used to execute tests by a test engineer in an offshore outsourced team, but if they follow the document, at least the basic quality of testing is ensured because it has high degree of reproducibility. Okay, then on the other hand, logical test cases, what is the good point? You will achieve better coverage and you can involve early the teams into the software development. So what is this better coverage? As I told you, when a test engineer, experienced one, builds a logical test case and sets it up as a guideline, at the time of running, they will try many different things. So the software will be tested with many exceptional flows, many variations of data. That is the good coverage. That is the benefit that we will achieve. And also, because the requirements are not very good, still we can keep building some logical test cases and get ready. Then actually you can involve the team very early in the cycle. So that is the good points of logical test cases with respect to this. Then the last point is, what are the disadvantages? So though you achieve high degree of reproducibility in the case of concrete test cases, anything you write, overwrite the document based on some other document, let's say requirements. Now requirements change, meaning you have to change your all detailed work that already you created. So it gives you a lot of high maintenance effort. A small change in requirements, you have to change hundreds of these concrete test cases, which will take a lot of your time. And if you don't change it, this consistency between these two documents is lost and it's all useless. So that is one big problem. Anytime you write very detailed things, then some change happens on the upstream, then you have to face this maintenance problem. So that is the disadvantage of depending on very detailed concrete test cases. And also it limits tester ingenuity. So testers will get very bored if, let's say, some company for which you are working in the US, the US fellows have written this document, okay, test cases in a very detailed way. For execution, they are using you, okay. Now they will tell you strictly follow this. Don't think. You just consider that you are a dumb fellow, and then you do your work. Then that is where actually testers will get very bored. That is how managers also will think that testing is a very ordinary job. Why to pay these people salaries also? A lot of times I face this problem in my career when customers actually give these detailed documents, and every week they will ask you to execute the same documents and record and send them back reports. Okay, then some people outside managers, they will see what these people are doing, this job only for this, why to pay salaries also. Like that also I got some questions from other managers. But then once when I was a delivery manager in Virtusa for one leading bank, JPMC, we were doing a 35-member team was doing this work only. Every week, a new release before getting into the production, it will come into a test server. Then they will execute all these steps. Every step is recorded. Not only recorded, they have to capture the date and time stamp that exactly on the time, on the date they are doing it. Then this 35 test engineers were so bored, they told we will not work in this project. But then once the very senior executive of JPMC came to visit us, then I told him, hey, you have to explain these people why you want actually these people to do this work, how this work is very important in spite of being extremely boring. Then when I told him, we did a all hands meeting in front of him. So he explained that whatever work you are doing is extremely important for me, because our legal and compliance cell will be needing this information. In case of some defect, because of which a client of ours affected, they may go to court. Only defense that we will have is that, hey, we made a change, we applied this change, and this has been tested, and this is the record of our testing. That is why we are asking you to do. So understand this big picture, and this is a legal issue, so we have to do it. So that is how the problem has been solved. Otherwise, every day I used to face this crying test engineers, always, sir, what is this boring work? What is this boring work? So keep it in mind. But sometimes it is needed. There is no other way. Sometimes other managers don't understand and make that kind of not so good comments that we are paying big salaries and all. It is not correct. Anyway, little bit deviation. Sometimes I go into deviation. But now let us look at what is the disadvantage of logical test case. Logical test case, lot of creativity is being applied by an experienced person at the time of execution, and sometimes if the same work has to be done by another person, the loss of reproducibility will happen. That is why in exploratory testing, the experienced testers apply a lot of creativity, find defects. So whenever they find defect, a particular varying data or varying workflow, actually for all the things that they have done for which the defects have come, they will record them, so that others also can, when they, if this same person is not testing, other person is testing, they can also use that knowledge. But generally there is a loss of reproducibility. So as a test manager, at the time of test design process, your teams may develop high level test cases, that is logical, or very low level concrete test cases. So you have to determine when to use what and guide and coach your teams. So you have to have this information in your minds. Okay, so let us go to, again, we have completed the test design topic as laid out in the syllabus. But as I told you, every topic once we cover, we will take a little bit of pause and we will do a little bit of exercise which actually tests the learning outcome that has been specified by ISTQB. So I put a exercise, same exercise actually, but extended. Earlier we were under test analysis stage. Now we are in test design stage, and then how do we build some traceability. So again, the same scenario. So you are test manager of a airline company. You are building a loyalty card functionality. This is the functionality. We have looked into that, and you have already built a product. It wasn't very successful. Your senior management was not happy, and you, as per your thinking, requirements were the issue. That is why things didn't happen properly. Now you, as a team, you are building new product, okay, and you divide it into two parts, engine part and web part. We have talked about all this, at least those who are attending every day, you know already. So the engine part is outsourced. They decided to do with a little bit formal requirement specifications, and it is the heart of the software. And there is a web part that will be done by a co-located team in an agile like model. And web part schedule is, they start early, they complete early, whereas engine part will, they start little late and end late. All these things we have considered earlier. And concerns wise, usability is an important concern, security is a big concern, and also accuracy of calculations done on this reward program, the engine part, are also very important issue for management. And you created a test plan already, and you told big features are there, but you have, I'm only putting a excerpt of your test plan. So you told login functionality is in the scope, then registration of new users is in the scope. Then also for this overall project, given management perspective, you also created a test strategy in that you talked about specifically about security testing to be done in two levels, one at a functional level, second is at a very specialist level. Then your team, test team, has actually done a test analysis activity looking at these requirements, and then they came up with these 7 test conditions. Test conditions are at a high level, what will I test? Okay. Now, for these things in the test design phase, what they will do for each of these test conditions, they may build one or more test cases, or they may build a test case for one or more test conditions, many to many kind of situation. So again, from a case point of view, it is not a strong test cases and all. These are the test cases they have created. Okay. Test case 1, just start the system, then check the screen is proper or not, because requirements also are told like that. You wrote test condition also like that, then test case like that. Then 2, what you are doing, you are existing username, existing password, and you are ensuring that this user is logged in, a positive test case. Then test case 3, you are using an existing username but non-existing password, and you are ensuring that it is not letting you enter the software. Then the 4th one is existing username and type in corresponding password, press login button, check the user is logged in. I think the 2 is again a negative one, 4 is the real positive one. I read it in a wrong way, but it is not a rocket science. So for there is a test plan, scope is defined, there is a test strategy, some strategy elements have been defined, then there is the requirements, and then using that you have built test conditions. Now using those test conditions, you have built these test cases. So now it's all being done by your team, but you have to guide the team to ensure that they are doing good testing, meaning they are doing complete testing consistently. That is your goal. So what you will do, you will have to create a traceability table, then put all these items together, test condition based on which requirement, based on which scope of your plan, based on the strategy, try to link them in an appropriate way. Then already you have done that in the previous exercise. Now we are extending that to tested by which test case, so that you are putting further traceability. So anyway, when you carefully look at it, it's not a rocket science thing. We can build this. This is the solution for that. Okay. Then you another thing is that I want to build a relationship between, because test condition has been already done and 4 test cases, which test conditions are linked to what test case, and anything is missing, so that information can be captured like this. And let's say a defect is found in test case 3, which test condition would be of interest, you just trace back and you will know the answer. So what really we are telling, we are extending, but continuously throughout this test management topic for test process chapter, from a test manager point of view, we are not going to the nitty gritties of doing that activity from a technical point of view, but managing that activity as a manager. That is what is the scope of test manager, and that is how ISTQB questions also will appear for you, and that's what happens actually in the exam. So with this, in the testing process, we have actually discussed the test planning, monitoring and control, and the second step, test analysis and test design. The next topic is test implementation and execution. That is our third group of activities in the fundamental test process, and what is the role in that process for a test manager. That is the next topic. So we will get into that. Maybe we will set a context today. We have another maybe 5-10 minutes. We will do that. Okay. And then we'll next Tuesday again we'll meet for the 6th session, and that will continue. But right now let us quickly look at the third topic, and what is the learning objective outlined by ISTQB syllabus. At least let us do that by answering a question about this topic. Okay. So again, to keep it simple, we are using the same scenarios so that we don't need to keep on repeating. These are registered in your minds now. So now you have to come back as a test manager to this ambitious startup company, okay, which is giving this customized loyalty and rewards as a cloud-based service. So in the morning we talked, okay. So marketing is putting a big blast campaigns, telling that giving a big promise that within 3 months you can buy it. We are giving huge discount, and the service will be highly available, reliable, and extremely fast. And now the software has work has begun, okay, and you are the test manager, and already test analysis has been done. Prior to that, test the quality risk analysis has been done, okay, and you have the risk, again the same risk I am telling, okay. So using this scenario, consider the following risk item. Again, I am not changing anything, only the question will change with respect to implementation activity. So using this scenario, consider the following risk item that was identified during the quality risk analysis process. So the risk tells that customized enrollment buttons for a company's website are not assigned to the correct URL for that company's loyalty program. This is a potential risk, okay, can happen. So any risk, when we are talking, again we will spend significant amount of time in our next chapter, that is test management, about risk analysis, because that is the real technical knowledge of a test manager. That's why we learn it very thoroughly. But broadly, when we are talking about a risk, what really we are talking, a potential threat that can happen in future which will impact your success. That is how we define risks. So whenever we are talking some potential negative thing about future, okay, we will talk risk using two elements of risk. One is likelihood of that negative thing happening. What is the probability of occurrence of that negative thing, because it is a future thing. If it is something happening right now, I don't talk about likelihood, but because it may happen, may not happen. So that's why always every risk will have one element that is called likelihood or probability of occurrence. Then the second will be actually impact. In case that risk really occurs, how much bad thing that will happen? What is the quantum of negative happening? Is it going to be extremely bad or moderately bad or not so bad? That kind of impact we talk about. How much it will affect you in case that risk happens. So always we actually calculate a risk value based on a multiplication of likelihood. If you give a number to likelihood on a scale, that multiplied by, if you give a likelihood of impact and give a number, you multiply them, and then you call it as a risk level, okay, or risk exposure, something like that we call. So keep that in mind, we'll talk about it. But in this project they conducted risk analysis, and one risk has been identified, okay, and assume that technical project stakeholders have assessed the likelihood of the risk at a medium level. So they told high, medium, low. So they gave it a medium level for the likelihood of the risk. Given only that information available, okay, only likelihood information available, which of the following statements is certainly true? Again, keep the keyword certainly true. So whenever in IS2QB they told like this, below 4 generally true statements, there is no false statement at all, but there is one statement is more true than others. That is what really they're asking you to think, okay. Keep that in mind whenever such questions happen and they use this kind of statement. Which of the following statements is certainly true? Means all statements are generally true, okay, but you have to find that one certain truth, okay. So let us go. The first one is the test cases associated with this risk, whatever risk identified, must be run first in the test execution period. They're telling whatever this risk, if you have 100 tests, if there some 10 tests are focused on running mitigating this risk, then first prioritize based on that risk, first those 10 tests have to be run. Other 90 tests can go on later. That is the first point. It's a true statement. Only we have to ask a question: is it certainly true based on what they given right now information? Okay, keep that in mind. Don't jump to conclusion. The test cases associated with this risk item must be run toward the middle of the test execution period. Okay, they are telling don't run first, but based on what you have assessed the risk at the moment, you do in the middle of the test project. Again, it is again doesn't sound very good for me. Okay, but I'm not jumping to conclusion. Third one is this risk item should be assessed as a very high impact level risk. Okay, so risk at the moment the stakeholders have told only likelihood. They did not talk about impact. They are telling risk at medium level, only likelihood. So you are telling, our question is which statement is certainly true. Okay, so again we have a scenario which marketing is telling. Based on that, maybe at this moment, instead of prioritizing tests based on only likelihood, based on our case study and what marketing is promising, though it is a medium likelihood, it may be high impact level. Okay, this is okay because our risk really is telling customized enrollment buttons for a company's website are not assigned the correct URL for that company's loyalty program, and this has to be linked. Likelihood occurring is medium only because it's a very simple technical thing. Developers will do right way. It will likelihood is less, but in case it occurs, reputation of the company is totally gone because your marketing is promoting in a big way that whenever this service is available, this is the most reliable service, this is highly available service, and it runs very fast. That is the promise they are telling. So at this moment, as a test manager, instead of jumping to conclusion about which tests have to be run first, which have to be in the middle, then that for this risk, what impact component I will assign, high or low or medium. So what this point is telling is that this risk item must be assessed as a very high impact level risk. Sounds good. Then fourth statement, a large number of test cases should be associated with this risk item based on the impact. That is also true. Okay, large number of test cases should be associated. Not large number is not needed, but good amount because high impact will be there. But I think the most true statement is that because technical stakeholders only talked about likelihood, as a test manager, you have to assign an impact at the moment and then prioritize based on the risk level, that is multiplication factor of likelihood and the impact. Okay, so the answer, the right answer is third. I didn't ask you, I just so do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so what is the real, from a test implementation point of view, from a manager point of view, managers must use risks prioritization, which one to do early, which one to do more thoroughly, less thoroughly, that prioritization, and also other related details like test environments, test data dependencies, and constraints to develop a test execution schedule. In fact, there is more involvement of implementation because this is a planning issue. So test managers typically bring out a small document which describes a test execution schedule where they will put all the test procedures, they create test suites out of test procedures, they assign test engineers to that, which one will be tested by whom and when, which test environment, which test data. It's a complex planning game in a little bit complex projects involving 20, 30, 40 test engineers, medium sized project. This whole test execution schedule itself is a interesting planning exercise. So managers will do that. So while doing that, you must use risks, prioritization, test environment, and test data dependencies and constraints to develop that test execution schedule that is complete. Again, it should not miss out on anything. It has to be consistent as per your project goals and strategy with respect to the test objectives, test strategy, and test plan. So that is your role. So that is how you have to understand this implementation step of our fundamental test process. That's what we will learn in the next session that will happen on Tuesday. Okay, so I know we are going a little slowly, but actually it is not very slow. In fact, when I taught this course as a 5-day workshop for a company executives, so actually the testing process syllabus will be covered using almost 6 hours of the first day. Okay, so out of 8 hours, doing all these exercises and all will take 6 to 6.5 hour session. But then the heart of the syllabus is test management. That will take almost 2.5 days. Actually, then the rest of the chapters, that is another 5 more chapters, are very small, simple chapters. So we'll move extremely fast when it comes to that. So typically this course is covered in 40 hours, but given this online thing, I thought it might take 50 hours. Let us see. I have never done that, so I will know now. But hope you are enjoying. That's more important. And those who are very serious to write this exam, reflect on it. Keep answering some questions. Maybe the sample exam that is available on istqb.org to understand what level of detail they're asking questions. Are we going in the right direction or not? You can check that. Then your confidence levels to write the exam will improve. So with this, let us close today's session and have a great weekend. Learn, have fun. If you have any questions, please ask.
Hi, Madhu, this is Dhananjay.
Hi, Dhananjay.
Yeah. So, Madhu, I just have a question around automation, right? So, you have this session for manual, right? So, do you have any such sessions on automation strategy building for complex projects or the automation walkthrough for the entire process, right? So, that will also help.
Yeah. But this course, it is very focused on ISTQB Advanced Test Manager certification. So there is a tools chapter, but the tool chapter is it actually gives a very big high level picture about which tool has to be used in what context. That is the test manager thinking has to be there. Then if at all a new tool is introduced into the organization, as a test manager, what you should do, what is the right kind of life cycle to systematically implement a new test tool. Those kind of theoretical things will be there as a manager syllabus, but they will not be specific to any practical thing. For that, we have to design new courses, okay, and only do that. Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Madhu. Thanks.
Any other questions from anyone? Okay. If you don't have any other questions, so learn, have fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye. Have a nice week.